Hello, everyone. Welcome to the chat today. My name is Andy Rayburn, and I am an admissions officer and also a recruitment officer for Carleton University. I should say, actually, good evening to you, even though it's morning here. It's a beautiful day here in Ottawa, Canada. It's the winter is pretty much over, and we're starting to work our way into spring, so the weather is becoming quite lovely here. I can tend to chatter away for at length, and since our time together here is quite limited, I will try to keep it succinct and short so that you have plenty of time to ask questions of me. So first of all, what are some of the things that come to mind when you think of Canada? Usually when I ask students this question, they say, oh, it's so cold in Canada, or oh, it's such a big place and there's lots of nature. Well, it can be cold in Canada depending on the time of year, of course. In the wintertime, it is below zero for most of the winter. However, in the summer, it can be quite hot in many of our cities. For example, in my city, in Ottawa, the capital city of Canada, it can be very, very warm, even as high as 40 degrees, which are temperatures that may be quite familiar to many of you. But aside from that, it's important to note that Canada is a very warm and welcoming place as well. All of you will feel right at home in Canada. In fact, most people that you meet in Canada will assume that you yourselves are Canadian because you will look Canadian. Canadians come from all over the planet. We have people in Canada from Asia, from Africa, from the Middle East, from Latin America. So you'll feel right at home in Canada. Also, the education system in Canada. That's an important thing to consider if you're thinking about coming to Canada for your education. The reason why Canada is offering such a great education is because our government holds us to a very high standard. That means that our institutions are publicly funded, and we are held to that world-class standard by our government. If we lapse in the quality of education that we are offering to all students, you'll find that the government will withdraw the funding and the universities will cease to exist. What this means to you as an international student is that the cost of your tuition will be much lower than what you will find perhaps at institutions in the United States or in the UK or in Australia or other places you may be considering for your post-secondary education. So the cost is lower, but the quality of the education itself is not compromised. Now, Canadians also value education so much that no matter where we live in Canada, we're going to want access to a world-class education. As you see in front of you, a map of Canada, you'll see it's a very, very, very big place. Of course, India is also a very big country. However, to give you a sense of scale, you can fit India inside Canada almost 3 times. Canada is that big. So as you can imagine, it would not be very easy for a student who lives, say, in Kochi to travel all the way to New Delhi just to go to the good university. The same is true in Canada. It wouldn't be easy for someone who lives on the far west coast, so Victoria in British Columbia, it would not be easy for them to travel all the way to the other side of the country just to go to the good university. So that means no matter where you go to study for your education in Canada, you're going to be accessing a world-class education no matter where you are. Okay, so to move along, now that I've covered some of the reasons why you may wish to consider education in Canada, why would you want to study at Carleton University? We are located in the capital city of Canada. So the advantages of studying in the capital, well, first of all, you'll have easy access to the High Commission of India here in Ottawa, in case you need to renew your passport or anything of that nature. But beyond that, you also have access to the National Archives, the National Library, research councils. Ottawa is also not just the political hub of Canada, it is also the Silicon Valley North, so to speak, of Canada, which means if you are working in the high-tech industry, such as engineering or computer systems or software development, you're going to be actually able to apply your knowledge from the classroom to real-life experiences through co-op opportunities here in the capital city. So it's a great place to study the high-tech industry or anything related to government, of course. But it's also one of the highest concentrations of medical research laboratories. So if you're thinking of going into perhaps a medical-related stream, you can actually be researching medicine and the applications of medicine here in the capital city. Oh, it's also worth pointing out that the capital city of Canada, Ottawa, it's a very small city by Indian standards. We are the fourth largest city in all of Canada, but with that being said, we only have 1.2 million people living in Ottawa. So you won't find the traffic as chaotic as you would say in Mumbai or New Delhi. Okay. Now, aside from living in the capital city, because there are multiple universities in the capital, there's actually two, why would you want to study at Carleton? Well, first of all, we will guarantee you a place to live in residence for your first year of study, as long as you're coming directly from high school. So from the state boards schools or from the CBSE schools or the ISC schools, as long as you're finishing your 10+2, we'll be able to consider you for a place to live in residence, as long as we are offering you admission before the middle of May. Also, Carleton University is a comprehensive university. So this means that there's a wide variety of programs from which you can choose, and I'll get to that in just a moment. But as I mentioned earlier, you can also apply your education to real-world, real-life situations through co-op programs. And furthermore, for those of you who may be nervous about the cold weather in Canada, it may give you some peace of mind to know that our entire campus is completely connected by heated underground tunnels. So in this aerial shot of our campus that you see on your screen in front of you, everything on the campus is completely connected by the heated underground tunnels. So hundreds, thousands of students are going to their classes through the tunnel system if they may not want to go outside. Now, I'm going to give you an example here. So this building right here, this is where the admissions office is. And there is my window where I'm speaking to you from right here. Now, this is where the residence halls are, right here. Okay? So students who live in this area, they're going to their classes in the lower part of the screen. That's the academic area right here. Those students are going into the tunnel system, and they are in shorts, they are in t-shirts, they are dressed comfortably, and they're not having to carry a winter coat with them to each of their classes. As you can see, it's a very, very beautiful, beautiful campus. We have 30,000 students studying with us from all over the world. We're actually within the city itself. It looks like we're outside of the city, but that's actually just the downtown core that you see at the top of your screen, which is only 15 minutes away from my office, all the way to the downtown core, just 15 minutes by bicycle. So this is just a city park on either side of the campus. It's a really, really gorgeous place to live and a gorgeous place to study. Now, when it comes to applying to Carleton University, there are two different ways that you can apply. First of all, you can apply directly through our website at a cost of just 100 Canadian dollars, which I believe is about 5,000 rupees. You can also apply to Carleton University and other universities within the province of Ontario through the Ontario Universities Application Centre. It is a little bit more expensive to apply that way, but it can be more convenient if you're thinking of applying to multiple universities in Ontario. When you apply, this is the first screen you'll see if you're applying through our website. So you would simply click on Start a New Application, read the information, and proceed accordingly. If you apply through the OUAC, this is the first screen that you will see. So as you can see, there's undergraduate 101 and undergraduate 105. Since all of you watching today would be students coming from an international high school or CBSE schools, you'll be clicking on the undergraduate 105 application. You don't need to remember this, don't worry. That would then take you to this screen right here. So you can then browse the programs at Carleton University and select which one suits your interests. This is a comprehensive list of all the different degree programs that are offered at Carleton University. As you can see, there's a wide variety of programs to choose from. For example, we have 13 different streams of engineering, including the oldest aerospace engineering program in all of Canada. We also are very famous for our architectural studies program, which is offered not only at the bachelor level, but also at the master's level. Furthermore, we have the oldest school of journalism in all of Canada, and this may be related to our location in the capital city. I've been finding when I've been visiting India, more and more students are expressing interest in communication and media studies, because of course the world of journalism is evolving, and so students are often drawn to communication and media studies due to the flexibility and versatility that you could have within media industry or within working for companies, perhaps in public relations. Also, when I'm visiting India on a regular basis, I'm finding students are often interested in business. We actually have 2 distinct business programs. For example, we have 8 specializations within the Bachelor of Commerce, but we also have 3 different specializations within the Bachelor of International Business. There are many, many options to choose from, including Public Affairs and Policy Management, which is a degree that is designed to get you into government work. There's also Global and International Studies. If you'd like to perhaps enter the world of diplomacy or international relations, that would be a good fit for you. And we also have, of course, Computer Science, because as I said before, Ottawa is also the Silicon Valley of Canada. Okay, so usually I find that students find something here that interests them. Before I continue on to the next slide, though, it is important for me to point out that when it comes to programs such as medicine, dentistry, veterinary sciences, pharmacy, these are programs that are in North America that are offered at the graduate level. When I say graduate, that's what you would refer to as PG. So you would need to actually earn a bachelor degree before separately pursuing admission to programs such as medicine, pharmacy, dentistry, or veterinary sciences. Now, we do offer programs that can lead to that, things like the Bachelor of Health Science. So it is important to keep that distinction in mind, that it is not a transition directly from high school into a medical program. I want to make sure you're aware of that. All right. Now, when it comes to the cost per year, this is what you can expect to be paying for your tuition, your textbooks, your living expenses if you're studying at Carleton University. You'll notice that the tuition range there, that's actually based upon your program of study. So the more expensive program is more specialized programs like architecture, industrial design, and engineering, whereas the lower end of that scale would be programs such as the liberal arts, or perhaps the sciences, things like that. If you're looking at business, it would be pretty much right in the middle. Now, I have done a conversion to the equivalent in US dollars, and this conversion is as of yesterday. So you'll be able to compare the cost of studying at Carleton University to the cost of any institutions you may be considering within the United States. You'll find that Carleton University, as well as all other Canadian universities, are consistently going to be more affordable than our counterparts in the US, without compromising quality, mind you. When it comes to housing, room and board, that is the cost of living on campus. So there are private rooms, there are rooms that have a kitchen in it as well that you'd share with 3 other students of the same gender. And so depending on the style of room that you're going to be staying in within residence on campus, there is a range there. Of course, I've also even factored in personal expenses, because you're going to want to do laundry. At least if you want a social life, you'll want to do some laundry from time to time. So laundry, personal expenses, going out with your friends, perhaps buying winter boots or mittens or a toque, winter hat. This is just an estimate in terms of what all of that may end up costing you in the end. Okay, I see some questions rolling in, and that's wonderful. I will be able to address those questions in about 5 minutes. If you don't mind being patient, I really appreciate that. Now, this chart here is showing you the scholarships that are available at Carleton University. And I want to make something clear, and that is we're going to be converting your grades in a system like the CBSE or the ISC to the equivalent in Canada. To give you a sense of it, a grade of a 71 in class 12 in India in the CBSE would be comparable to an 80%. So for example, I'm just going to use the whiteboard here. A 71 in CBSE would be comparable to an 80 in Canada. If you're getting an 80 in CBSE, it may be comparable to an 85 or so. This will give you a sense of how we convert the grades from the Indian system to the equivalent in Canada. Okay? So you may be thinking, oh my goodness, if the grades in the Canadian schools column, if that's what I'm expected to get, it's going to be very difficult for me. We recognize the education system in India, in the national system, as being extraordinarily strong. So the reality is, when we are converting your grades from the Indian system to the equivalent in Canada, you're actually going to be very pleasantly surprised. We're going to actually do a conversion using a complex algorithm that will inflate your grades, that will make it actually much higher once we do that conversion. So those grades would correspond to these scholarships. Keep in mind that the scholarships are divided over the course of your study. So for example, if you happen to be getting CBSE results that are in the 90s, you'd be getting a scholarship that is worth 16,000 Canadian dollars. However, that ends up being $4,000 per year off the cost of your tuition. It's also worth pointing out that there are other scholarships for which you can apply that are more specialized, and that is when your extracurricular activities become important. However, we will automatically consider you for an entrance scholarship as long as you are coming directly from the high school system, the 10+2s. Okay, I hope that is clear, but if you are not sure about anything, I'm happy to revisit this in a moment to answer your questions. You'll find that when you're applying to Canadian universities, including Carleton University, our focus is always going to be on your academic performance. That is the most important thing. That is paramount in our decision-making process. The reason for that is because your grades speak for themselves, and they really are the best indicator of your likelihood for success in university. So generally speaking, we're going to take 5 or 6 grade 12 courses, including any prerequisites related to your program. So for example, mathematics if you're wanting to go into business, or physics, chemistry, mathematics if you're wanting to go into engineering, or perhaps math and English if you're wanting to go into something like economics, or just English if you're wanting to go into the liberal arts. So we will take your grades from your senior year, and we will convert that to the grades I've shown you previously to develop your admission average. Many of you may be wondering, if I'm still in school, how is it possible for you to have my final grades? What we'll actually do is we'll look at your predicted grades or your pre-board results, depending on what can be provided to us by your school. And we will then compare that to the Class 10 results. So when you apply, we will ask you for the Class 10 results as well as your predicted or pre-board Class 12 results. And this will then allow us to compare the predictions to what you actually achieved in Class 10. Now, you may have noticed that I have not mentioned Class 11. In my experience as an admissions officer, I find that Class 11 results tend to be much lower than what you may have achieved in Class 10. And this is a way for the school and your teachers to help motivate you to do really well in all of your studies to get even higher grades in Class 12. This is a very interesting way of doing things. I don't see it in many other places around the world, but it seems to work because I find that students who have done well in Class 10, the grades that they receive in Class 12 are usually very, very similar, even higher sometimes in Class 12, even though Class 11 results may be lower than they may expect of themselves. Please don't worry. I'm not going to put any weight on your Class 11 results, okay? I want to set your mind at ease regarding that. Those of you who are coming from state boards, we may ask you for a language test. If you're coming from CBSE schools or ISC schools, we will not be asking for a language test. I want to make that clear as well. All right. And I can happily revisit this with you in a moment if you wish. All right. Since most of you will not be requiring any English language testing, I will skip over that slide just to save some time. Okay. When it comes to residence, we actually have 12 different residence buildings. This slide is slightly out of date. The 12th one is almost finished construction right now. So we'll have actually over 4,000 spaces as of September of 2018. And as I mentioned earlier, space is guaranteed in residence as long as you are coming directly from a 10+2 system and you are being admitted to the first year. And of course, you're being admitted before the middle of May. The rooms are very secure, and we have food options within our dining facilities that will accommodate all needs. We have lots of vegetarian and vegan options. We also have lots of halal options. So we cater to all of our student community. All right. Now, this is my favorite subject, and I wanted to speed up my time a little bit so I could have plenty of time to chat with you a little bit about the career opportunities. For those of you who are not familiar with Co-op, I'm happy to introduce this to you. For those of you who already know about Co-op, you'll be happily confirming your knowledge of the Co-op program as you already know it. So Co-op is like an internship. So Co-op is actually work experience related to your program. However, it is much better, much superior to an internship. For example, when I think of an internship, I think of part-time study, maybe 5 or 6 hours a week, maybe 10 if I'm lucky. And those work experiences may be paid if I'm lucky, or they may be unpaid. Now, considering you're trying to do your classes and you're studying full-time, it can be really challenging to find time to be working for a company for 5 to 10 hours a week. And it would be a little frustrating if you're not even being paid for your work. Sure, it's great to have internships. It's great to be able to put that on your resume. However, wouldn't it be much better to take the knowledge from your classroom and apply it to a real-world situation, working alongside professionals in the industry, working alongside basically in the field that you will be in once you graduate? It's a great way to get your career started. And wouldn't it also be better to be getting paid very, very well for your studies, for your work rather, while you're working? Of course it would. In fact, you could be making starting salary level pay while you're working. The way the Co-op program is structured is after you've done the first 2 years of your studies and you have that foundation of knowledge, you will then start to work for a company, perhaps alongside professional engineers, or if you're studying marketing or accounting, you could be working at an accounting firm or a marketing firm, working on different advertising strategies, but you're also getting paid for your work. Now, you're working full-time, which means you're not going to school while you're doing your work terms. So after 2 years of study, you will then start to work in your field for 4 months or 8 months, and then you will return to your classes. And you'll find that you're actually able to achieve higher grades because you're understanding what you're learning in the classroom much better. You know the applications of certain algorithms. You know certain marketing strategies. You know how to develop certain types of software. Or you've already been working in computer game development, perhaps at Ubisoft or something like that. So it is a really amazing opportunity for you to apply the knowledge from the classroom to a real-world situation. Now, your work terms are going to end up totaling 16 to 20 months of full-time work. As you can imagine, this is going to mean it's going to take longer to earn your degree. So the 4-year degree will take you 5 years to complete. However, you're able to get your career established, finance your studies. My goodness, engineering students can sometimes be earning 4,000 or 5,000 Canadian dollars per month while they are working, which is a really amazing way to finance your education. Not only that, in Canada, you're able to apply for a postgraduate work permit once you're finished your degree. which means you could apply to continue to live and work in Canada for 3 more years after you graduate to really get your career very well established. Usually the companies that hire students for the co-op program, they also tend to hire them for the 3-year postgraduate work permit because they've already trained their future staff members. It's a really great program. And to be frank, it's offered throughout Canada, not just at Carleton University. Now, once you're actually arriving on our campuses, we're going to ensure your success. So we do have many different types of support services for you. Everything from writing tutorials and time management workshops, but also we have a dedicated office just for international students, and they provide things like immigration advice, or if you need to renew your study permit, or if you need to renew a work permit, our staff are there to help you. We even have staff that will be at the airport to welcome you upon arrival through our airport pickup service. So there's a lot of different things that you can do. We even have an international mentorship program. So what that means is if you're studying, let's say, commerce, and you want to be teamed up with another student, perhaps from India, perhaps even from your high school that is currently studying at Carleton, who may be at the 2nd year level or 3rd year level, they can help show you the ropes, help introduce you to the university, to your program. You can learn from them in terms of the mistakes that they may have made and how you can avoid making the same mistakes. It's a really great program that allows you to have hands-on advice and guidance from someone who is just like you, who has been through it already. Okay, now, luckily, I still have about 10 minutes or so to answer your questions. As I'm answering your questions, please take note of the email address that you see on the screen before you. That is our direct contact details. You'll also see our admissions website there listed, and you can call us at any time as well. And of course, our friends and partners at Univariety are also there to help you out if you have any questions about Carleton, or if you need to get in touch with me personally, directly. Our friends at Univariety are there to help facilitate that. Okay, now I'm going to just start to scroll through some of the questions here. I'll start from the older questions, if you don't mind. All right, bear with me here. Okay, I see Sanjay has asked about the courses that are related to the bio-agri field. Well, that would be the courses within the sciences. So there are courses like biochemistry, if you're wanting to develop perhaps chemicals that you may be putting on plants that will not cause damage to the plants, but yet protect those plants from parasites. So that would be within the biochemistry field. Many of these areas would be within the Faculty of Science. To be frank with you, Sanjay, Carleton University has many applications that are applicable to the agri field. However, we are not considered an agricultural institution. So if you are looking for universities that are dedicated to agriculture and the fields associated with agriculture, I would personally recommend the University of Saskatchewan, or perhaps the University of Prince Edward Island, or the University of Guelph, which is also in Ontario. As you can see, university representatives in Canada, we do not get a commission, so I'm always happy to help students find the best fit for them. If that means they come to Carleton, great. If it means they're going to a different university in Canada, that's also great. I'm just happy that you're seriously considering Canadian universities. Okay, Swati asked about accommodation. I think I covered that, Swati. Perhaps you submitted your question previously, but we will guarantee you a place to live in residence as long as you're being admitted directly from class 12 and before the middle of May. After the middle of May, we have so many offers of admission out there in the world that we have to honor in terms of the guaranteed spaces in residence, that we can no longer offer a guaranteed place to live in residence after a certain date in May. However, this is a good example of why it's important to apply early. We're still accepting applications right now, actually. Okay, so another student inquired about the courses that are available within engineering. There's actually 13 different specializations. I mentioned we have the oldest aerospace program in all of Canada, but we also have electrical engineering, mechanical engineering, We have biomedical combined with electrical and mechanical. We have environmental engineering, communications engineering, which gets into telecommunications and cell phones. We have software engineering and computer systems engineering. We have renewable and sustainable and renewable energy engineering as well. There's many different areas of engineering that we offer, actually. Architectural, conservation, and sustainability engineering is another. So there's quite a few different areas to choose from. I think I've covered probably 12 of the 13 just by listing them there. We do not actually have diploma courses. I see another student has asked about diploma courses. Now, we're a university, so we're offering degrees. We have postgraduate diplomas, which would be an additional year after you graduate. However, if you're looking for diplomas in particular fields, such as, let's say, interior design or aviation or things like that, I would encourage you to look at colleges in Canada rather than universities. I see Nakia has inquired about the requirements to get into Carleton University. Well, basically, we're going to be focusing on your grades in grade 12, your predicted grades for grade 12, and we'll be comparing those predicted grades to what you actually achieved in grade 10. So I'm also going to be considering, of course, the prerequisites related to your program. So that's the main basis of our admission decision. We may or may not ask for a language test, but in my experience of assisting students from India, most students do not require any English language testing. It's on a case-by-case basis, depending on the education system you're coming from. But for the most part, students in India are not typically asked to submit language testing. You may have noticed that we're not asking for any SATs. That's an American thing. Or ACTs, also an American thing. For those of you who may have taken an SAT test, you may have noticed they're asking questions about George Washington and things like that. It's, in my opinion, it's a culturally biased test, and it's not a good indicator for your likelihood for success in university. So keep that in mind. We're also not going to be focused on your extracurricular activities. It's great if you've been the captain of the cricket team or if you're part of Model UN or things like that. However, not everyone is an extrovert, and we don't want to discriminate between one student who has the opportunity to volunteer in a hospital and another student who perhaps lives in a more rural community and does not have that same opportunity. So this is an example of why we're always going to be focusing on your academic performance, first and foremost. I hope that covers that. What should the average mark be in Class 12 CBSE? Well, it really depends upon the program that you're applying to, but I would encourage you to strive for a minimum of a 70. There are some programs that we could accept an overall average of high 60s, but for the most part, our programs tend to be looking for a minimum of a 70. There are also other programs that require much higher grades. So, for example, aerospace engineering, we're looking for you to have probably in the neighborhood of 82 or so in CBSE. So the grade requirements can vary depending on the program. Tara has asked about the age limit for getting into Carleton University. Tara, there are no age limits. I recently admitted a student from Sri Lanka who was 14 years old. He was admitted last year. He needed special documentation to show the Canadian government that he had someone in Canada that was going to take care of him to make sure he was healthy and eating right and things like that. But from an admissions perspective, he was a superstar academically, and he's basically like a Doogie Howser, if you know that reference. I may be dating myself. But he was a superstar student, and so he was academically eligible for admission, so we just simply admitted him. Yeah, so there are no age requirements, Tara. Are there any proper courses for forensic science? Lisa has asked. Lisa, there are many different options within the Faculty of Science that may interest you. We also have forensic psychology that's actually built into the liberal arts. We also have criminology and criminal justice as a major within the liberal arts, which you are welcome to combine with a minor in something like biochemistry, so that you could really build your own specialized degree that would be focused on like crime scene investigation and things like that. I see Janavi is an IB diploma student. That's great. You're in grade 11. Fantastic. In order to be considered for admission to most programs at Carleton University, we're going to need a minimum of a 30. There are some programs that would consider you with a 28 in the IB diploma. However, most would require a 30 or above. However, it is worthwhile pointing out, Janavi, that we can also consider you for credit for your higher level subjects, which is a huge advantage to you. It's really great that you're here. I didn't anticipate actually chatting with too many IB diploma students. Please, Janavi, take down our email address, and I can talk to you in greater detail about the IB diploma program requirements in terms of prerequisites and such. Okay. I see another student has asked about courses for space. Yes, Brenda. We do have courses that are dedicated to space. So, for example, space engineering would be aerospace engineering. That gets into space systems. It gets into propulsion systems, space structures such as robotic arms and things like that may be attached to the International Space Station. We get into rovers and the robotics that would be used for land vehicles. Once, for example, all-terrain vehicles that are sent to Mars and places like that. We've developed those. We also have unmanned aerial vehicles that can be used for surveying the topography of a planet, theoretically. Yeah, so that would be the aerospace program, aerospace engineering. Mm-hmm. I see that Janavi has also inquired about the credits for the higher level subjects. Yes, Janavi, those are university level courses, and we can consider you for credit as part of the admission process. You would need to achieve a predicted grade of 6 in those courses or a final grade of 5 in those courses in order to receive credit. Okay. I see Lisa has asked if it's necessary to be a B average, though we are an A. Well, the higher your grades, Lisa, the higher the scholarship would be. And keep in mind, a B average is not necessarily going to get you into all programs. It's still based upon the prerequisites as well as the academic performance in your senior year. Keep in mind, I'm focusing on your academic performance in academic subjects. So I'm not considering things like physical education that you may be taking in class 12. I would eliminate that from the calculation of your average. So be cognizant of that. James has asked if you can study light and sound engineering. Yes, you can actually. That would actually be part of our Bachelor of Information Technology in Photonics and Laser Technology. Feel free, James, to jot down our email address, and I'm happy to send you more detailed information on the BIT Photonics and Laser Technology program. There are also other areas of information technology that are associated with sound engineering. Yusha, sorry for mispronouncing your name. Yusha has asked about if it's possible to do a double major between economics and computer science. Unfortunately, you cannot do double majors across faculties. So you could do a double major within a faculty, or you could have a double major within a faculty and a minor in another faculty. So in this situation, you could study Bachelor of Economics with a minor in Computer Science, or vice versa. You could study the Bachelor of Computer Science with a minor in Economics. Okay, what is the class ratio at Carleton? That's a good question, Janavi. Now, what many university representatives do is they will take the number of professors and the number of students, and they will divide the two to get a ratio. But to be frank with you, that's not an accurate depiction of what you can expect at university. You'll find that your first year classes in, let's say, liberal arts, it's going to be a lot of students in a lecture hall, maybe 200 or 300. However, that really isn't a class, that is a lecture. And then those lectures then have smaller discussion groups where students can interact and ask questions of each other. And those discussion groups may be 25 to 30 students in the first year. If you're in a science or engineering program, the labs are always going to be a ratio of 28 to 1. Now this is, again, first year. As you advance through your degree and you become very specialized in your field of study, you're going to find your class sizes are shrinking. They're getting smaller and smaller and smaller because you are becoming very specialized in your education. Your classmates from first year have gone off to their own various specializations, and you'll find that your third and fourth year classes, the ratio from student to professor is very, very small, maybe 12 to 1. As a random example, I'm a history graduate at Carleton University, and some of my fourth year history classes only had 5 students and 1 professor. So when we talk about ratios, it's important to consider year level and also program. But that's a great question, one I'm asked about a lot, actually. Please don't be tricked by those other university reps that may say, our class ratio is 18.4 to 1. Well, that's a little funny because I've never seen a 0.4 student in any class, right? So sometimes people can manipulate numbers to present what they want to present. Okay. I see that there's a question about medicine. I mentioned earlier about medicine. That is a PG program in Canada, in North America, actually. Just like law, just like veterinary sciences and pharmacy, it is a PG program. So you still need to earn a bachelor degree before pursuing that separately. I see a question here about, can we go for part-time jobs after college? After university? Yes, you certainly can. You can apply for a 3-year postgraduate work permit if you wish. And it certainly helps to get that 3-year postgraduate work permit if you are also involved in the co-op program that I mentioned earlier, that full-time paid work experience related to what you're studying. Yes, you can certainly do that. Many students do. And many students then also pursue permanent residency in Canada. Okay, I see one last question here. Era has asked about courses related to designing. There are quite a few different areas related to designing. For example, the Bachelor of Architectural Studies is probably our most famous design program. There's also the Bachelor of Industrial Design. There's also the Bachelor of Information Technology in Information, Multimedia, and Design. So these are programs that would actually require a portfolio in addition to your grades. It is worth pointing out that these design programs tend to have earlier application deadlines. As an example, our Bachelor of Architectural Studies had an application deadline of February the 1st, so 23 days ago. And therefore, unfortunately, it would not be possible to be considered for something like Architectural Studies for the fall term of 2018. However, if that interests you, you could apply for the fall term of 2019 before February the 1st, 2019. The deadline to apply for the Bachelor of Industrial Design is actually March the 1st. So if that interests you, I suggest you get cracking on submitting an application as soon as possible. All right, everyone. I hope that covers everything. If you have any other questions, please feel free to send me an email. This is our main email line. You can just simply ask for me, and my colleagues will direct your email to me in particular. And as I mentioned before, our friends and colleagues at UniVariety are always happy to help facilitate connections between yourself and me, or they're also able to answer general questions about Carleton University and the undergraduate programs that we offer. Thank you very much. I am now 15 minutes past my allotted time. Thank you for your patience, and I wish you all a pleasant evening, and I look forward to chatting with you in the future. In fact, I will be in India in April, so I would love to chat with any of you during my visit to India. Okay, take care. Bye-bye.